So iiSU, this is pretty interesting because I wanted to make a video on this a couple days ago, but over the course of the holidays, I've been a little bit busy. Holidays, I guess I'm counting Black Friday there, but last couple of days. But in those last couple of days, a little bit of drama has happened surrounding iiSU, which I hope doesn't take away too much from the conversation I still want to have about it. But yeah, so if you don't know what iiSU is, it's basically a front-end application for your emulation setup. Right now, it's only on Android, but they have plans to make it accessible on PC, handheld PCs, pretty much any device. The whole point of it is that it's a very nice, polished, console-like experience for organizing and launching emulated games. And then, of course, it has like an integrated social and community thing where you can like talk to people and basically like a Miiverse, inspired kind of thing. And then it'll have retro achievements for earning badges and whatnot, net play, stuff like that. So it's basically like an all-in-one UI front-end way to play your games, which is super cool. I like the idea. And one of the biggest things that I took away from seeing all this was like, wow, this looks fantastic. This looks leagues, miles better than what you see on the current first-party platforms. But real quick, I'll go over the drama if you guys aren't aware of it. And I won't go too heavily into it, but basically there's a couple things, but like the biggest takeaways were there was some Discord drama. Like they had their own personal server that like the server they used to talk about iiSU, like in a public sense, was the same server that they originally were using as a personal friend group. And then, people went back and saw messages from that time, and it was not very flattering and kind of got them in trouble. Bunch of people were upset about it. I don't care to go into it. You can if you feel like it, but there's that. And then I think the other big thing was people were alleging that there was use of like AI in the code, or just in general. I do believe that they have denied the use of AI, at least to like an extent that would be, misuse or overuse of it. But regardless, the founder has stepped down and apologized and whatever. But the project is still ongoing, and they hope to regain trust within the community and continue from there. All I can really say regarding all that is this is why you shouldn't use Discord to have personal conversations in the sense of like a public server. Even if you think it's only for friends, all it takes is one person to join, and then boom, now you're in trouble. Discord is a mess in and of itself. Hey, I have a Discord server, by the way, join it. But anyway, but I want to talk about the actual UI itself. You can see that there's a lot of inspiration from Nintendo, from PlayStation. You got the little smiley face from like the PS3 era, I guess. Well, I guess they've used that since then. They've been using that, but they have a lot of those elements taken from various platforms and various sources of inspiration and stuff like that. But the main thing I want to draw attention to is just the amount of care and attention to detail that was put into this. Now, of course, they're not necessarily a company, right? So they don't have to adhere to a specific design philosophy. They can kind of make it up as they go, and with that comes a lot of freedom. So it's a little bit of a different case when it comes to these guys, doing their small time thing, and the big companies doing their big time thing. The big companies now prioritize a more simple UI because they want it to appeal to as many people as possible. They want it to not be confusing. They don't want people to get overwhelmed. I get all that. I get why simple UIs exist, but they distinctly forget the main part of why people play video games, and that is to have fun. Modern UIs are rarely fun. Some of them are sleek. Some of them can be, minimalist. Some of them even have some nice bits of color, but most of them aren't fun. And that's kind of the big problem that I have with a lot of these UIs. And I know a lot of people don't care. I shouldn't say a lot of people, but apparently enough people don't care, because when I've talked about in the past, they go like, shrug. And it's a little bit hard for me to tell whether or not those are people that really don't care, or if they're more of like the, white knighty, I'm going to defend, X company regardless, no matter what. And on that note, last video when I talked about MNFs, as I was calling them, or modern Nintendo fans, I should have specified that what I mean by that is the people who like Nintendo or say they do, that don't actually value or treat the legacy of Nintendo with reverence, you know? And you can say that about any company, right? Like they just kind of come in and they're like, oh, this is the best it's ever been, period. I don't care about what came before it. But I also want to say that this isn't a generational thing. This is not like, you know, a boomerism, like, oh, you know, we had it better when we were younger. It's actually not a generational thing, because a lot of the people that do kind of white knight and defend Nintendo, or, you know, the people that I call modern Nintendo fans, it's not, when I say modern Nintendo fan, I don't literally mean, oh, you like Nintendo, therefore you're these people. What I mean is like the modern Nintendo fan that has only been a modern Nintendo fan, or if, like I was about to say, they have been around for a bit, they kind of seem to conveniently forget what came before, you know, what was Nintendo at this stage or that stage or this in-between era. They always like leave it out of the conversation, or if they do include it, they tend to like pick and choose. Like if you were to say, okay, the Wii's UI was way better than the Nintendo Switch, they would tell you you're wrong, and they wouldn't really articulate why. They might say like, oh, well, you had to use a Wiimote to navigate it, so therefore bad. They'll say like weird things like that, you know, but they won't actually address the core argument you're trying to make, which is that like the Wii's UI was interesting. It had that lovely like music in the background. I don't know if you call it music, just like ambiance. It was so nice. The Wii U also had a really good UI. I like the Wii U UI. It's really good. The music for that was fantastic. And then the Switch doesn't have anything, you know? It functions. It's there, but that's it. And I guess it's just sad to me because I don't know where we've gone wrong to where we've kind of just accepted that, you know? Like I do know that there are some people who even still like modern Nintendo that have been asking, hey, where are the themes? Where are the themes? But most people don't care. And maybe that's not even true. Maybe they do care. But if you say you care, if you talk about it, they actually get upset with you. It's really odd, because what you're doing by talking about it is you're saying that like, hey, what Nintendo has at the moment is not as good as it could be. And that makes them uncomfortable. It makes them like feel personally attacked. And I really, really wish that wasn't the case. I wish you could talk about these topics, these things that are more of an emotional thing, that are more of a feeling thing, you know, they're not functional. There's no, you know, specs when it comes to UI necessarily. But when it comes to these things that are vibes and looks and feelings, I wish you could talk about it without people feeling personally attacked. It's pretty tiring. Like I have a lot to say on these topics and I can't really get it all out sometimes because I feel like people just kind of shut you down, or they'll hear like the first two words and be like, no, you're wrong. You know, no, you're wrong, because modern thing is just the way it has to be and the way it should be just because it is the modern thing. And then of course you do have people on the other side that say, you know, that would say, oh, older thing better because it's older. You know, it's not the modern thing, therefore it's better. You do get it on both sides, don't get me wrong. But I do think it's undeniable to say that like the modern UI or practices amongst like PlayStation or Nintendo, the look of their consoles is not as good as what we had in like the 2000s, late 2010s, stuff like that. Like the PS3 had such a good menu. It was a bit convoluted. There was a lot going on there, you know, like a lot of like little sub menus and stuff like that, but I loved it. It was so good. It was like simple, but had a lot of intricacies and like it was just perfect. And you had like the background, like you can change the colors and the themes as well. But even without the themes, just like that simple background, like the little swirly, whatever, sparkly, I don't even know what you would call that. But you could like change the color of that. And I just remember like doing that often, like just changing the color of the background. Like I would keep it that like simple theme, like whatever you call a default theme, I would keep it that, but I would change the color every so often just to like change the whole vibe of everything. It just really did. It livened it up, and like it made me excited to play the games that were on that system. It made me really just like keen to turn that device on. I just wanted to turn that thing on and just exist in that world. And you know, with the addition of like achievements, or I guess trophies in the case of PlayStation, it really just like it felt like its own world. You know, like your friends were there, your achievements were there, your UI elements were there. Like you did that. Like, you chose that color, or you chose that theme, you sorted the games in this certain way. You did all that. In the Nintendo Switch, you can't do all that. You can't really like choose where things go. You can't, move things around or change the color. Well, you can change it from black to white. That's it. Or white to black. That's it. But you can't really do much. It's not yours. And that's the problem that I have with it, is because it feels deeply impersonal. It feels like because they've chosen to go the route of being a mass appeal thing, something that appeals to the lowest common denominator, which is just, your average person, just simple, maybe doesn't even play video games. Just like, oh, I got the Switch. Okay, how does this work? Okay, it looks like my phone, like that same thing. We got a gear for the settings, blah, blah, blah. It's very simple. Or maybe a tablet would be a better example, but same thing. It appeals to that. And the person who has been a lifelong gamer, or not even lifelong, but just someone who has been interested in that hobby for some time, kind of gets left behind a little bit because they can't do all the fun things that they were able to previously. And I think that's something that extends past UI, of course. Like, you see a lot of these series of Nintendo and even PlayStation, just everywhere, kind of abandoning its original core audience. And I'm not saying that you can't grow past that. I'm not saying you can't, get a bigger audience. It is a shame, though, that while in the pursuit of, going for something bigger, you actually alienate the very same people that were interested in you in the first place. And that's why you get so many heated online discussions or debates, because what they do is not a gradual sort of like, okay, let's bring in more people. It's a very abrupt, jarring, okay, now we're appealing to everyone. And in doing that, they immediately alienate the people who were fans of it before. I'm actually going to use Star Wars as an example. I recently used that as an example in another video, but I'm going to use that as an example here because Star Wars, as we all know, has absolutely abandoned its core fan base. I'm not someone who was like a hardcore Star Wars fan, but I did like Star Wars. I absolutely liked it. I watched like all the Clone Wars show. I watched all the movies up until like the sequels, I liked it. I wouldn't call myself a super fan, but I did. But now I don't care about Star Wars at all. And I bet that hurts even more for people that loved Star Wars. For me, it was like, ooh, ouch, like yuck, that sucks. I guess I'm done interacting with that IP, but it wasn't like that big of a deal to me. But like, could you imagine? And I'm sure some of you are these people who have loved Star Wars. Like, you love it. You eat, breathe, sleep Star Wars. That had this happen to it, had this sort of, mass, broad appeal, Disney approach to it, that sort of just well, for lack of a better word, just ruined everything. Like, I don't really know how else to put it. They just kind of ruined it. That must have been devastating for you. And for me, that devastation, that feeling, not quite as intense, I felt it during the Switch. When the Switch came out, I felt so empty when that announcement dropped, when they showed what the Nintendo Switch was for the first time. It was so disappointing, but like, I couldn't exactly articulate why right off the bat. I was like, why don't I care? Like, I saw that and I actually didn't even understand why I didn't care. I just felt disappointed. And then I started to realize, like, oh, it's because there's like nothing wrong with it. Like, technically, like, it is a machine that plays video games and you can take it on the go. It functions as intended, but the intent is more on just that functionality, not so much on having fun. The games do the heavy lifting in that regard, which, is an argument that people will put forth as like, oh, why do you care about the UI? The games are the most important thing. And I don't necessarily disagree that the games are the most important thing, but I would say that the UI makes up a larger percentage of a system's personality that most people would say. Some people might say like, oh, like, I don't know, 10, 15%. Me, I would go as far as to say like it's at least like a third of its like personality, like the way it looks, the games, the UI, like all these things are not equal parts, but they're all important. I would say like the games are the most important, then the UI, then probably the way it looks or maybe functions. But then, maybe you could say in some cases that's the most important thing. Like, in the Virtual Boy functioned very poorly, but some people say it has good games, so like, is it the most important thing when it comes to that? you know, like the Virtual Boy games are fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with them, but the form factor and the way that you play them stinks. Now, there's no UI really when it comes to the Virtual Boy, but you get what I'm saying. The UI does matter. And in the digital age, in the age of, you know, it's not just a power switch where you just turn the system on and you have a game. In the modern era, the first thing you see is the system's UI, the system's interface. And it's something you're going to be seeing every time you turn that system on, over and over and over again. And so when that's the case, it needs to be interesting. It needs to be dynamic. It needs to have, you know, social features or customization options or icons that are eye-catching and fun and interesting and things that you can move around and play with. You need to have all these things, because if not, it's going to get stale and you're going to start to not be special anymore. And as an unintended consequence of you not being special and trying to reach everyone, you end up reaching no one. You are doing the same thing as what a handheld PC could do, in the sense of just being a machine that runs games. And so if the price point is right, people are going to be absolutely willing to abandon a Switch if a better product comes along and offers the same experience but with better specs, or maybe a bigger library, or most importantly, a better price point, at least like for the video games themselves. You know, Steam has sales often that actually, you know, intrigue the audience, that actually get people to buy them. Nintendo, their sales are a joke. Okay. But the UI is a big thing, because if there was a more interesting UI for the Nintendo Switch, people would be less willing to leave, because like, yeah, well, you know, I can get a better deal over there, but I really just like it here. You know, I like this, the vibe, I like the presentation, I like the social features, etc., etc. But as of right now, the offerings from Nintendo as far as like social features and, you know, vibes go are weak. Very, very weak. Probably at their weakest they've ever been. And I think that that's happening with the Nintendo Switch 2. Not directly as a result of just the UI, but it is absolutely a contributing factor. And it's also confusing for consumers too, because like, you know, when the things look exactly the same, you kind of don't understand why one thing can't work on the other. You know, it's like, oh, why can't I download this app on this iPad but not this one? You know, even though it's like one generation forward. Well, you're going to have those problems with the Switch as well, where people are going to get confused. Like, let's say like someone has a Switch 1, Switch OG, and then someone else in that family has a Switch 2. They're not going to understand why they can't switch games between them exactly. Some people will get it, but some people will also get confused and left in the dust. Especially when you have like a younger audience, when you have younger or even older people like the parents or grandparents, whoever, trying to understand what they need to get their kids to make them happy, you know, like trying to fulfill their Christmas wishes. You know, it's like, okay, well, what can I get you exactly? The UI doesn't help. You know, the UI makes it more complicated. And I know I'm kind of talking to a wall right now, because, you know, why would you necessarily change the UI between the Switch and the Switch 2? You know, I understand why you'd kind of want to keep it the same. But my problem just goes beyond that. My problem is the whole thing. Like, my problem is that the Switch's UI should have been more interesting to start off with from the get-go. And I really mourn the 3DS, because the 3DS was fantastic. You can move the games around, you could have folders, you could change the themes, you could do so many things on there that now with the Switch are gone. They're just gone. Like, the Switch has replaced handheld gaming. We don't get handhelds from Nintendo anymore, like dedicated handhelds. We don't get those anymore. And so as a result, we don't get those fun, whimsical features that we used to get. And that sucks. Straight up, that sucks. Even just things down to like, you know, this isn't even a UI thing, but like, you know, the claw machine game that was introduced to the 3DS, like kind of near the end of its life cycle. Like it was a couple years out, but it wasn't there from the beginning, is what I'm trying to say. But that claw machine game, it was a Nintendo application you just download and you can play for free using coins that you should get by walking with the system, or you can pay if you'd like to. But anyway, the whole point of it was that you would play a claw machine, you'd collect these like little pins, these little like things, and you could put them on your home screen. You know, that is sorely lacking with the Nintendo Switch, because when I say UI, I guess I'm going beyond just the traditional definition of it. I mean like the whole life, the whole system itself, you know, like the PS3 had PlayStation Home just already on every system. It was just there. Now of course you like still had to install it and like do all these downloads and stuff because there was like a million updates, but PlayStation Home was like this built-in MMO that was distinctly Sony. It was Sony's little console MMO. It was insane. It was super cool. And I didn't even discover it until like, you know, a couple years from its actual shutdown. I wasn't even like one of the original people that like played it or anything like that. I discovered it like way late and I still loved it. I was like, what? Like, this is just free? And I remember playing PlayStation Home and there was like a Halloween event and there was like this little carnival. And I remember playing some mini game where I was like popping balloons and I did it. You know, listen, it was clunky. It was weird. It was clunky, but like I was having so much fun. I popped these balloons and I won a download code for Resident Evil, the PS1 game, the original Resident Evil. And I was like, what? And I went to the PlayStation store. I put in the code. And sure enough, yeah, I just got Resident Evil on my PS3 for free. Like, it's still there to this day. And I love that. I love that memory. And now that I think about it, though, it might have been, I might have been like doing something where I had to like find zombie dogs or something. There were so many mini games in PlayStation Home. It's hard to keep track of them all. But I do remember popping balloons for something. Anyway, there was a million things, but that's my point. There was so much fun things to do and weird stuff to get up to. And there was even like your own apartment that you could decorate and stuff like that. My dream scenario for a Nintendo something like that was always kind of almost like Animal Crossing-esque, but not exactly. It's like, imagine you have like a little house. Like you boot up your Switch 2, whatever. And everyone there's like a little thing you can go to where you have like a little house. And you can put like little statues or furniture or whatever. And you get those different little pieces of furniture, statues, little household objects by doing things in game. So basically like achievements or trophies. So like you would get an achievement or a trophy and that would be a little object. So like, let's say you're playing Mario Kart World and you complete all the Grand Prix or something, you would get like a little, you know, a little statue, a little car or something, right? And you can put that little car in the corner of your room or on like a desk or something, like, and you can point to it and be like, oh, look, I got that from doing this thing in the game. And other people would be able to visit your house. You know, you can go to your friends list and see all their houses. It wouldn't be like a multiplayer game. You know, it doesn't even have to be that, is what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't even have to be like a multiplayer, like real-time thing where you can see other people. I just mean like you can click on their profile, you can load their house, and just like walk around their house a little bit and just be like, oh, you know, you can like click A on something, like interact with it, and like it just tells you what they got it from, maybe the date they completed the achievement, you know. And that's it. It's like, oh, got, you know, hit 100 people with red shells in Mario Kart World, you know, and then like the date, and then they just, it's like a little shell or something that just like sits on like a table or something. I know I'm kind of just dreaming here, but like that is quite literally all Nintendo would have to do to make me buy a Switch again, or to buy a Switch 2. And I'm not kidding. If Nintendo brought back the sense of community, the sense of fun and joy, and what it is to be a fan of these series, if they brought that back, I would have no choice but to buy a Switch 2, because I don't want to miss out. I want to get that shell. I want to get that little car. I want to get the little desk from, you know, Kirby Air Riders, a Kirby desk, you know, whatever it is. Like, I want to get those things. I want to decorate my house. And the crazy thing is, I think other people would too. I think it would sell like crazy. I don't know if you guys remember Miitomo, which was like a weird app that Nintendo launched, I don't even know, like some years ago. And it was me based, but like you could add your friends and you could do little mini games, stuff like that. And like it kind of died pretty quickly, but for like a little bit there, it was huge. Like I just remember everyone playing it, even people that did not even care about Nintendo or even play video games. Everyone at my school, I was in high school at this point, so like, I don't know, 2014, whatever. It was a while ago. Everyone had this app. Everyone was on it. And that's what I mean, like that hype, that that sense of like, oh, I gotta get in on this, you know, really, for lack of a better word, like the FOMO thing, where it's like, you know, fear of missing out. Everyone has to play this. Everyone has to get in on Miitomo. Everyone has to get in on the Nintendo Switch 2 home house thing. And wasn't there recently like some kind of patent that Nintendo was pursuing for achievements or something like that? And now that I think about it, wasn't Nintendo like testing something kind of like this? I think this was back in like late 2024 when they originally were talking about this, but they were talking about some kind of like social hub space. Oh, that's right. Here it is. The dev core. The dev core is a separate space from the planet you'll be developing. Think of it as a social hub to gather with other players. At the dev core, you can level up your character, get items you'll need for your journey, communicate with others, and more. So was this part of the Nintendo Switch Online test? This almost looks like it became the hub lobby you see in Kirby Air Riders. I believe that the people that were testing this thing weren't allowed to like talk about it. But if anyone knows anything about this, I would be very, very interested in hearing about it, because if they are trying to do something like that, something that is like its own Nintendo MMO or Nintendo social thing that is unique to the Nintendo Switch family of systems, that would get me very, very excited. I think that needed to happen from day one. It's kind of insane that it's been over a decade and we haven't gotten anything like that. But if they are working on it and it's coming, then I'm still in. I'm still interested. I'm still willing to, you know, take that leap with Nintendo. Even now, even after everything, even after all the bad business practices, I would be willing to try. You know, if they want to go the route of being the mass appeal company now, and they want to be, you know, Disney-fied, and they want to do this and that. If they want to do those things, if they do it right, and they make it fun, and they don't just completely abandon the gaming audience, you know, outright, then I'm still willing to give them a chance. But they have to prove it. They have to prove themselves, and this thing can't just be stupid. It can't be like, you know, one-dimensional. It can't just be like this simple little thing. It has to be interesting. It needs to be dynamic. It needs to be something that, simply put, it needs to be something that makes you excited. But what do you guys think? I mean, do you guys know about this playtest thing? Do you guys care about UI elements? Do you guys have an opinion on the iiSU situation? Let me know. My name is Goobles. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing. I'm almost to 1,000 subs. Very excited to get to that milestone. And have a Goob day. You're still here? Okay. So I did want to talk about one other thing. I keep seeing comments, you know, this was on my mind because like the whole iiSU thing, and there was like, oh, they use AI, blah, blah. I keep seeing comments, especially my last video, saying that I was AI, saying that my channel is AI, or that my talking voice is AI, whatever. It's not. This is just my voice. And if you're curious, if you don't believe me for some reason, you can also check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/minigoobles. You can watch me live. But also, I think that the reason why people were saying that is because, unlike this video, my other videos were scripted. Like I would type out everything I wanted to say, and then I would just do it. This time around, I just had notes, and I just sort of like free flowed. Let me know what you prefer. Do you prefer the more scripted style, or do you prefer me just yapping? Because I think, even, you know, me being, you know, my own biggest critic, I think that the reason why people were saying that is because when I read off a script, I tend to kind of say it rather than feel it, you know, like I'm just saying the words and not actually like processing the emotion behind them, because, you know, I don't exactly 100% remember what was going through my head when I wrote the words. You know, obviously I have an idea, like it'd usually be like earlier that day or not even that far before I'm recording, but it tends to come out differently when I'm reading the words on the screen and then saying them. You know, it kind of just has like this like flat cadence. So I can see why people say that. But at the same time, it is a little bit more polished, I guess. Like it's, you know, it flows better and whatever. But I don't know. I think that honestly, the unscripted videos kind of just sound, well, obviously more natural, but maybe even better. You know, kind of a less is more approach. Like, I don't necessarily need to script the videos, because if I just talk, it kind of makes my point come across a little bit better, and people can kind of understand the emotion behind what I'm saying, and not just like this flat, I wouldn't say monotone, but, you know, more flat cadence style. Because, you know, I listened to my previous video, and I think I came off as very, very angry. And and I was a little bit annoyed, but I didn't mean to sound like pissed, you know. So I don't know. I think I'll experiment more with just kind of like having notes and then just going from there, you know, just like talking. I think that'd be better than trying to script literally every word I'm going to say in a video, because, you know, it kind of comes off a little bit flat. So I'm not AI. I just suck at talking and reading at the same time, apparently. So, well, talking, reading, and putting a lot of emotion in it at the same time, you know, that's a skill. It's a hard skill to learn. So I apologize. But anyway, if you're still here, I appreciate it. Have a Goob day. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.